Evening, hunters. So, where are we now, kids? Right, this is the evening show of me recording videos just for me, so I can have a rant on the way to work and on the way home. Look at the fucking state of this traffic. I mean, honestly, they've got one bit of roadwork going on in a tiny village, and it is just mayhem. So, buzzing day. Honestly, buzzing day. Why is it buzzing? I hear you cry. Well, it's buzzing because that creatine, mouthful of powder, chuck it in, has been brilliant all day. Focus, delivery. I was a bit jittery first thing. I had my my one-to-one with my boss, and I had it all kind of racked up in my head, not in terms of a kind of negative thing, but I'd already prepared it mentally, what I was going to be talking about and how I was going to go through things, and it went well. Did a lot of deliverable yesterday, but normally when you get back from that, you kind of go and then the rest of the day's fucked. But for me today, it wasn't. And that's not the Elvance. That is, it's got to be the creatine. It's got to be the creatine. Because, I've not been like that with Elvance. And I didn't take extra Elvance. I just took the normal amount of Elvance. Didn't do anything differently apart from having a teaspoon of creatine in my trap before I go and do a workout. So you get dopamine from the workout, you get the creatine kind of going focus. And I've been looking into the histamine thing, and there's really some interesting stuff on that. I was barking up completely the wrong tree about the antihistamine, but the antihistamine could be a benefit in terms of helping increase focus. So we could look at antihistamines, or we could look at the diet. Always the diet. It's the gut. The gut is responsible for everything, and the brain is responsible for everything else. It is honestly, it's eye-opening when you really start to dig and grab hold of the first kind of sign of a root that you find and start yanking on it to find out more information. There's lots and lots of people, cleverer people than me, that have done brilliant research into very kind of what I would call specific kind of journeys, specific kind of traffic, and they're looking at specifically histamine, they're looking at specifically creatine, they're looking at specifically behavior, they're looking at specifically brain scans. You've got to look at these things with the whole in mind, the holistic approach. There has to be this, especially now we've got AI that can help us kind of put all this stuff together. Because when you tell AI to go, I need to understand how this impacts this, there's been a couple of times when my AI, Claude, paid version, goes, well, there isn't anything that sort of corroborates what you're talking about, but actually you make a really good point. And the reason you make a good point is because of this study and this study that aren't connected. And now we're going to have this rambling about this Channel 4 documentary, this fucking idiot who's trying to tell everybody that ADHD is a myth, like the fucking Loch Ness monster, Loch Ness ADHD, but it's tripe, isn't it? It's people getting clickbait, people going, I've got a program for you. Oh yeah, that's a good, very topical. Millions of people going to sign in. Yeah, but you know what's better? My title for it is fucking amazing. That's going to get all the ADHDers angry so that they start watching. You can get them talking about it on social media weeks before. Whoa, yeah, then we could make a whole pot of cash. And it's meaningless, because there's loads of people, loads of good ADHD people who've very rightly, they've gone in, they've debunked it, and they've gone, this isn't right. You've only looked at like 2 studies, you've looked at 2 studies of 10 people. I had somebody kind of having a go the other day about something that I was saying is, you can't actually tell at the moment by just looking at someone's brain or checking their dopamine levels whether they're going to be ADHD, because you can't. And then, that person then said, well, actually, there are studies in America who are way ahead of us that are saying that there are now brain scans that are available to tell you whether or not you have ADHD and how severe it is, which is why there is such a thing as a severe ADHD, which there may be. But actually, when you look at it, it's not there yet. The science is not there yet to back that up. There was a study done on a bunch of kids in America, one state of America. Some of them were ADHD, some of them are not. And they made some conclusions out of it. And everybody still calls back that same piece of data that I can't remember what it's called. We haven't got fresh data with, multi-populaces around to actually validate this is a common kind of sounding occurrence. The DR4 something or other gene that was found in a 50,000-year-old fossil corpse thing, that has, that was, found, I think, from that Spanish study where there were 30,000 ADHDers and 20,000 non-ADHDers, and they found that same gene shred in the ADHDers, and they didn't find it in the non-ADHDers. That was pretty conclusive about the hunter theory, which I love the hunter theory. But, I think that's where we really do just have to kind of hone it in a little bit. We kind of have to think to ourselves. We have to think sometimes, don't we? What this thing that we've got, we know it's there. We know it's there because the symptoms are there. I was watching some other thing by this bloke who, he's got 30-odd thousand followers, and he clearly just posts about things that narc him. And one of those things that narcs him is about naughty kids, because they're just shitbags, being labelled as ADHD. Well, there is some science behind that, old son. But you carry on with your opinion, because opinions are shit. There's no opinion that is still an opinion after it's been proved right or wrong. It's just nonsense or truth. That's it. It's either bullshit or truth. And he's spouting bullshit because he's going, you just got to bring him up at home. In my day, he's about 10, 15 years younger than me. In my day, there was no ADHD. We got a clip round the ear and we did as we were told. Yeah, and there's also a real fucking amount of poor mental health in our generation, particularly my generation, which is older than your generation, because we spent so many years not believing that we were enough. You've got to feel like you're enough for your parents. Surely, you've got to feel like they are the ones who are going to support and nurture you throughout your life. Surely, that's just the basic, right? That's it. That is the basic right of human life, other than water and fucking sunshine, or air. Rather, sunshine, not necessarily going to get anywhere, but that's the basic principle of parenting, is that you nurture and educate your child. That's it. Nurture, love, educate, and then feed. Nurture's feed as well. Talking shit now. But what you can't do, what this bloke's kind of suggesting, is we go back to this old-fashioned day when people felt like they had to be a certain way. That was never the way. That was not the way that hunters had. If you look at the animal kingdom, they don't have children, cubs, just doing as they're told. They get fucking narky with them. We're just animals existing together, trying to learn this thing as we go along. So they do get narky, and the kids piss about, and they try and play hunters, and they try and play fights. It's no fucking different. We're just animals that happen to have a greater sentience about our being that means we can, consciously make, a series of decisions that are actually broadly the same as the principle of decision making when you don't have that level of, you don't believe they have that level of sentience. So what's it all about, eh? I think that's why I just love the hunter-gatherer principle, hunter-farmer theory so much, is because it kind of says, look, this is the order and sequence of these things. And if you pinpoint it, and again, we come back to the studies in isolation and not kind of trying to see where things compare. But with hunter-farmer, it's easy, I think anyway, to see that, right, if we were hunters and we can see all the common attributes between the hunter and the ADHD adult of today, we can see those quite clearly. Hypervigilance, the risk factor, the way that we eat and graze, the way that we crave quick fixes, our creativity, our lack of you know, we need structure, but we also hate plans. You know, all of those things, you look at those from the hunter perspective and they're absolutely spot on, you know, and there may be others that aren't, because we've developed other things since then. But you know what I mean, we then get, you know, from the hunter, that's vagina, from the hunter we then get, you know, the ADHD person, who, you know, as we all do, as all ADHDs, all animals do, we try and make it as easy and as efficient as we possibly can to get food, to get laid, and to sleep safely in our beds.